Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to BWTM Sports Gaming. Glad you could join me. You know, when I sit back and I think about the things that I've predicted to happen in boxing, and they've all come to pass, all of them. I'm not talking about boxing predictions, I mean events, the return of Mike Tyson, the boxing league, Warren versus Hearn, SmackDown versus Raw, that thing I spoke about. I think I spoke about it 4 or 5 years ago. I spoke about how Matchroom have got show, but Warren's got substance. And when everyone was jumping on the bandwagon of Eddie Hearn had a better stable, I said if Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren ever clashed, Frank Warren's team, Frank Warren's stable would destroy Eddie Hearn's stable. And people laughed at me and thought I was being bitter and angry and I didn't like Eddie Hearn. Well, the fact of the matter is, you saw 5-0 yourself. I told you with AJ, I said that he needed to leave Matchroom. In fact, he needed to leave Rob McCracken, but he needed to go someone like James Adabashir, an old school trainer. And I was saying that at the Joseph Parker fight, and I said if he went to America, it would be a disaster. I predicted how Andy Ruiz would basically stop AJ. I even gave you the sequence of punches before how AJ would get himself in trouble. I said it'll be an exchange, left hook would come over the top, and that would be the beginning of the end of AJ. It happened. I told you that AJ would bomb if he went to America, and it was not. He didn't have the charisma nor the loving that a Frank Bruno or Ricky Hatton would have. Now listen, it happened. I've spoken about the various hype jobs in boxing, which have more or less all been exposed. I've also brought you some of the best fighters we've got in the era, from Usyk to Crawford to Fury. Boots Ennis, who I still think is a bit flawed, but still, Keith Thurman, many fighters that have gone on to become modern day, in our era, great fighters in our era. I talked about how the YouTubers would be getting involved in boxing. We've seen it. And now you've got everybody's YouTube channel now basically on DAZN. But I'm going to give you something else. I'm going to give you something that nobody will see coming. And I believe will happen. And I believe we're in the last days of the sweet science of boxing. Just think, how's that possible? Let me show you how the sweet science of boxing is slowly being eroded. All the top quality trainers, Eddie Futch, you name them. If you want to say Freddie Roach, James Adabashir, all the great trainers, Stacey McKinley, you can go through them. Even Buddy McGirt, we've got now. You go for the trainers, Abel Sanchez. You can go for the Abel Sanchez, Derek James. The old school trainers. And you can go back further, and it's probably a lot of trainers I'm not mentioning, my apologies. The old school trainers are not being given the credit or the value they deserve. And so therefore you've got fighters who could go down as all-time greats, Wilder, Joshua, picking trainers that are below the great standard. So they can't inspire greatness. So we have decent, average champions. So let's put that to one side. Then the commentators that were involved in boxing now. Where are these dudes coming from? What's their boxing legacy? Like, you get all these commentators now and people sticking microphones in people's faces. Ask them, what's their legacy? What have they got to do in boxing? What have they done in boxing? Where they're making their predictions and punditry? Where's their punditry coming from? And yet guys that are like top, like analysts being pushed to the sides for these newbies that are coming in, that are wet behind the ears and don't know anything about the sport. telling us what is good boxing and what is not good boxing. And they are dictating the sport today. A person like Devin Haney is now called the runner. But yet, someone like Conor Benn is called the people's champion. By whom? And by who? By who? And why? We call Ben versus Eubank a great fight. But if we sit down, we break down the technical and the sweet science behind the sport and that fight, there was little to none of it. There was few moments, but it wasn't like let's say, Roberto Duran and Marvin Hagler or Sugar Leonard versus Thomas Hearns. It was nothing like that. It was just all-out war. Two guys throwing punches at one another. And yes, it was exciting. Don't get me wrong. The atmosphere was great. But it seems to me, seems very apparent, Floyd Mayweather, Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, who else? Name a few fighters. Crawford's probably going to get it as well. If you had there before Crawford's face has been pushed out more now than ever because they're pushing for the Canelo fight. Otherwise, Crawford would be very quiet. But certain fighters that are technically skilled, Floyd Mayweather, certain fighters that are technically skilled are either called runners or boring. And if they're not every fight get into an all-out scrap like Eubank Ben, if every fight's not a Eubank Ben for them, for their careers, then they're boring. Then they stick the joint out. Then they are not entertaining. And we are in the entertainment era, believe it or not. You might not be able to fight, but if you can entertain, you're going somewhere in this sport. Ryan Garcia the other night, he's not a world champion, but he gets treated like a world champion. Devin Haney did what he had to do. He did what he had to do to get the bag against Ramirez. Wasn't pretty, wasn't great, but it kept him to get through to the next round so he can get the Garcia fight. Garcia boxed terrible, looked terrible, got beat by Rolly he got outboxed by Rolly who can't box. Right? Yet all the eyes are on Devin Haney, who won the fight. Devin won his fight clearly. Is it not the boxer's responsibility to close the range down and to get in close and do the damage? That's the boxer's job. That's not Devin Haney's job to allow the fighter, because this sport, at the bottom line, is hit and not get hit. That is boxing. Hit and not get hit. Unfortunately, there is a huge majority of people in boxing today that think hit and getting hit and keep getting hit is boxing. And this is what I call the anti-boxing establishment. They just want to see a barroom brawl every night. Every night. Every fighter must get into a scrap. Every time they fight, must be a brawl. Interestingly, Alexander Usyk tries to hit and not get hit. He's not considered boring. Tyson Fury tries to hit and not get hit. He's not called boring. But the masters, like Mayweather, are considered boring. But we're not going to go there. We'll leave that right where it is. The fact of the matter is this. This is what I think is going to be the next step in boxing. All right? The way I see it. Turki Al-Sheikh has a lot of money. And if he's not happy... Now imagine, take you back to the Roman times, the Roman Empire, when they used to have those stadiums and the two people would come out and fight in the middle to the death. Do you remember those times? You probably didn't, but you've seen them on Spartacus and stuff like that on TV, where the gladiators would fight. And we always talk about guys being called prize fighters, yeah? Oh, I think the time is going to come very soon where prize fighters will literally become prize fighters. You're like, what do you mean? But they're all prize fighters. They get paid to fight. Yes. But in this era coming, we want entertainment. And the atmosphere that Eubank and Ben created was electrifying. And you have that compared to Devin Haney versus Ramirez or Shaka Stevenson. I get it. It's not the same atmosphere. It's not the same thing. I get it. But this is what I think is going to happen. Hold with me here. How do you create more phone booth fights? Simple. Reduce the size of the ring. So there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Doghouse. Doghouse boxing. So your technically skilled fighters are forced to fight in smaller rings. So what Devin Haney did the other night, he won't be allowed to get away with. And so what happens? The Dan game characters will pay you a lot more money, but you gotta fight in a small ring. So the ring becomes smaller. So if the ring becomes smaller, there's less place for you to run. There's less place for you to hide. I wouldn't use the word run. You have to fight in a... So guys that are like a Canelo, for example, who are flat-footed, or Ramirez, who would be chasing down someone like Devin Haney, their job becomes easier because the ring is much smaller. One of the examples of this was when Alexander Usyk fought Derek Chisora in the UK. Now, Alexander Usyk didn't realise how small the size of the ring was until he got in the ring on the night. Unbelievable. Usyk admitted it himself through Ukrainian TV. There's an interview he did. In fact, in that same interview, he said that Derek Chisora hit him with an overhand right, I think in the second round, and the lights went out, he said, and then the lights came back on. Round 2, he said, he openly admitted this. But anyway, so imagine now, and they can even make it a series, the Doghouse series. I'm telling you, where you just get smaller rings, get the top fighters to fight in smaller rings, and then you pay more money, and they've got to show themselves in that ring. That's what I see is going to happen next in boxing. It's coming. It's coming. Turkey Al-Sheikh coming out like some, what do they call these things? We used to have like the Roman king, where they would come out and they'd have the two prize fighters coming out, and they would sit there and they'd have grapes with them and the women and stuff. It's not too dissimilar to that at the moment. It's not too dissimilar to that at the moment. And we can move there very quickly. Yeah, we can move there very quickly. All these belts that we've got at the moment, WBC, WBA, IBF, IBO, they're not going to mean anything soon, because all the top fighters will end up fighting away from those belts. They won't have to worry about sanctioning fees. I think that we're going to move away from that as well. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Because if they have a universal belt, and fighters are getting paid more money and not paying sanctioning fees, they'll drop all them belts and fight for the universal belt. So I've said universal belt. I've told you there'd be a boxing league. We've got that boxing league now. Enough fighters join that boxing league. And before you know it, 3, 4, 5 years from now, the plan will be to scrap all the WBC, WBA, IBF, IBO, all them belts will become non-existent, or they won't matter because of this new universal belt. One name, one face, one champion. As Deontay Wilder used to say, one face, one name, one champion. Yep. And these fantasy fights will be more of a normality. And these people that make these ridiculous calls, you're going to see more of them. And they're going to have more influence in sport of boxing. Sport of boxing is going to get crazy. And listen, last thing I said, I remember I said this a long time ago to you people, and I'll say it to you again. Boxing is like the WWE. I said it. And I said that 5 years ago. I said, don't be surprised you start getting things like backstage incidents. Expect that sort of nonsense, backstage incidents and scripts where this guy is sleeping with this guy's wife or ex-missus, and then this guy slept with this one sister, and all sorts of nonsense backstories you're going to get. It's going to end up being, boxing's going to end up being like a sitcom, like an episode of Netflix, right? And every week you're going to get a new episode of something else happening. Wait, I told you. Wait and see it coming, right? Wait and see it coming. So, let's see. And if this happens, do you think, because at that point, once you've got smaller rings and less places to move, all it is people standing and who's got the greater will, who punches the hardest. It's got nothing to do with skill anymore because two guys are fighting in a phone booth. You just got all out war. So it's going to be down to endurance, fitness, will, good chin, and maybe some defensive skills. But for the most part, it's a shootout. So, why do you need boxing? Why do you need boxing gloves for that? Lateral movement. Well, you're going to have no lateral movement in a small ring, are you? You tell me, boxing fans, what happens if this is allowed to happen? And by the way, one final thing. People are pushing the limits. People pushing one another, punching one another, slapping one another. The sport is got out of control. And it's only a matter of time, like I said before something happens where somebody goes over the edge. And it's only a matter of time, because at the moment, people are pushing to see who can get the most views. This is the entertainment era. The sport being a gentlemanly sport, or it being the Queensberry rules, forget all that. If it sells, it's well played. Think about it. And our old school boxing trainers, who's passing? Who are the new trainers? Who are the new trainers being taught by old school trainers? Nope, we've got fitness first. And then you've got fitness first advising our good fighters to throw uppercuts from far out or go for the knockout when they should be looking to hold. Legacies are being ruined. Great fighters potentially great fighters and all-time greats are being average fighters by poor trainers. Poor trainers, bad management, bad matchups. Yeah, and less time focusing on fighting and more time focusing on being an entertainer. You know, Marvin Hagler would be a great fighter, but I don't know how he would do in this era in terms of social media. Because the guy used to go up into the mountains and just train away. Press conference, blah, 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 go and train and come back. Marvin Hagler wouldn't be on, he might not be on social media the way it is. I don't know how he'd cope. The old school fighters just got to camp and they trained and you didn't see them. I don't know, man. I don't know. So, Garcia has shown us, and I like Garcia. Garcia has shown us you don't need to be a world champion to make money. You don't need to be a world champion to get the attention. You don't need to be a world champion to be highly rated. Just be good looking and have charisma. You'll go places. That is it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments, and thank you all for subscribing and like the video, share the video. The more likes these videos get, the more YouTube picks it up and the more videos get seen and obviously more traction. It's good for the channel. Thank you so much. This has been BWTM Sports Gaming. Back to the future.